Welcome to another I Love Data Fridays here at the International Data Evaluation Center on the campuses of The Ohio State University. And ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful day it is today. I wish it had to do with data, but it didn't. It's just a beautiful day outside. I don't know if you'll hear the birds chirping in the background over the microphone, but if you do, please enjoy. Hey folks, let's get right to it. Enough about the weather. Welcome to episode 26 of I Love Data Fridays. And today's topic is going to be an update of our annual reports for the 2017-18 school year. So hey, who's talking data to you today? Well, of course, you've got me, Jeff Breimer-Bashore, Director of IT and Operations here at the International Data Evaluation Center. And folks, it's good to see you. We haven't been on break. We've been doing a lot of stuff with our friends at the University of Delaware for the I3 follow-up studies, so it's finally nice to get back to a little IDEC topic here and everything. So first thing we're going to do, let's get over to our screen here. Let's talk a little data. Hey, what are we going to talk about today? So today we are going to talk about the changes that we've made for our reports, and we have put them into, I've separated them into two things. The first things we're talking about two things. One, we're going to be talking about the changes to the reports that we've made for 2017-18. We'll talk about that first. And this is great for our new and veteran teacher leaders, because it's nice to everyone. It's good to know what they need to know for their reports for the school year. And then we're going to go into an overview of the reports that you actually get from IDEC every year. And this is great for new teacher leaders. I would certainly welcome to have our veteran teacher leaders stick around for that, but veteran teacher leaders, if you feel comfortable with the layout of the reports, you can hop off at that point and say goodbye and enjoy the wonderful rest of the afternoon. Now, folks, if you have some questions, I am monitoring our usual Slido.com for questions. I'm going to see if I can stick that on here. If my little, let's see, yes, I want to add an annotation there. Let's add an annotation, see if I can do it. There we go. We can go to www. I'll move this around so we can see it. Slido.com, event number Z754. So you can go, and let's move that over. Maybe we'll move that right over there. Boop. There we go. Maybe right up there. www.slido.com. Just enter in Z74, and I will see questions as they pop up on the screen. So, hey, let's get to it. Let's talk a little data here. All right, let me click up here. Minimize that. Thank you very much. Okay. Come on, PowerPoint. All right. There we go. So let's talk about the changes for 2017-18. The first thing that we'll cover is that we've removed two tables from our reading recovery and our DLL reports. I'll talk about those in a second. And then we're going to talk about how we've added some rows to the tables 3.1 to 3.7. So we've added some new rows to those tables. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about our tables that we removed. So we've talked about that we've removed some tables from our reading recovery and our DLL ports, and specifically we've removed tables S20 and S21. So you'll remember that we just announced that we've removed some of the other year-end questions from the other year-end data page, and S20 and S21 were the tables that were affected by those removal of those questions. So those were the two things that we removed. So we just removed the corresponding tables. Right there, that's just an easy description of what we had. So next, here comes the little more thorough part. We've added some rows to tables 3.1 through 3.7. So you will see some new rows and these 7 tables. And actually, technically, what we've done is we've renamed one row, and then we've added a few new rows to the table. So let me talk about what we've done. So the first thing that we've done is that we've renamed the row that said tested not instructed. We've just renamed it to say tested not instructed, and then in parentheses all, just indicating that all of your tested not instructed students are included in this row. And you're asking, why did we put the all on there? Well, that'll become apparent as I go and talk about the rows that we've added, and I'll make sure to cover that. So here are the rows that we've added. So we have added one row that will show results for first round discontinued students, another row for second round discontinued students, third row that will show results for your ELLs, discontinued students, and then here's where we get into some tested not instructed business here. We've added a row for tested not instructed students who received some other literacy intervention, some other intervention besides reading recovery. So it's a subgroup of the tested not instructed all category, okay? And so we have found, and teacher leaders have shown us this, that really the kids who in the tested not instructed group who sort of look most like reading recovery children are ones who then get some other literacy intervention besides reading recovery, all right? So then we've added two other subcategories of this tested not instructed kids who received other literacy intervention. We've added tested not instructed children who've received other literacy intervention, and that instruction was from a reading recovery teacher. It wasn't reading recovery, but it was delivered by a reading recovery teacher. And then our final row that we added was tested not instructed students who received literacy instruction from a non-reading recovery teacher. Now, I'm going to see if I can bring up an Excel spreadsheet here real quick. Bring it over across my monitors here. Here we go. So, now this isn't an exact, I haven't pulled this exactly from a report, but this is a sample using national data of table 3.7. So you will notice here in column A, we have our different statuses in categories. All right, so our usual categories that we've seen in the past are all right here. You'll notice that in this example, I've added the parenthesis all to this, so we can indicate that this is for all tested not instructed students. Then we have our first round discontinued students row, our second round discontinued students row, our ELL discontinued students row, and then our three remaining tested not instructed students who received other literacy instruction. One row that has all of them. So essentially, this row right here is these two rows combined. Okay? So I was saying earlier that the tested not instructed students who received another literacy instruction tend to look more like our reading recovery kids. So let's just take a look at the fall score real quick. So if you look here, our tested not instructed all, and let me explain these columns. This is our fall data. The N is just the number of students that were used in the calculation, and then we have the average fall total score. So you'll see that our tested not instructed students all categories had an average fall total score of about 413. If we look at those, 414.3. If you look at the kids in the tested not instructed group who got some other literacy and instruction, they got a 406.5. And if we look at our second round students here, you can see that they're a little more like our second round students. Our second round students had a 409.8. So these kids who get other literacy instruction, and they just tend to look like. So I put them on here because we've been using it a lot in our various bar charts that we've been sending to people. So if you remember that bar chart I showed at Teacher Leader Institute, the OS Total Score Growth Chart, all of these right here are some common groups that people wanted on those bar charts. So if I figured, hey, might as well give these information to you so you guys, for those who are comfortable doing the bar charts yourselves can actually go and do this. So you will find this on these extra rows on tables 3.1 through 3.7. So it's all the tables that are for the tasks of the observation survey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am just going to pause here slightly to see if anyone wants to write in a question about this, because after this, we are going to launch into our overview of the annual reports. Veteran teacher leaders, I'd love to have you hang around if you want to hang around and just see an overview of the annual reports. We're not talking about the changes. This is really something designed for our new teacher leaders so they have an idea of what they're getting from IDEC at the end of the school year. But if you've got fires to put out, I won't cry too much if you have to go somewhere else. I'm going to give it another few seconds here, well, 20 seconds or so, and see if any questions come across. For those, as I wait to see any questions, for those going to the Teacher Leader Institute, I do want you to know that I'm offering a session that's called Closing the Administrator Gap, Practical Advice for Supporting a Reading Recovery Implementation. And it's not so much advice for teacher leaders, it's advice for school administrators. And what I want to do in this session is have teacher leaders help me change this presentation that I have, that I'm comfortable talking about, and change it into something that can be used as like a handout or talking points that teacher leaders can take with them on visits to school administrators. So this way you actually have some data that's combined with practical experience and your practical experience, and hopefully can make good arguments about the best way to support reading recovery interventions. All right, I don't see anyone ask any questions, so folks, we're going to move on here to our the rest of our presentation. So we're going to be talking about moving into talking about our annual reports, and we're just going to do an overview of what you get from IDEC at the end of the school year in terms of annual reports. For our new teacher leaders, to get your annual reports, you have to submit your data to IDEC at the end of the school year. So what happens is when your data are complete, when your teachers are done entering all their data and you're done reviewing it, you go to this, our data and school assignments page, and then you click on this check and submit tab down here, like on the website, and this starts taking you through a checkout process that sort of checks your data for big errors. And then finally, the last step of the process, it asks you, do you want to submit your data for reporting? And when you do, this signals our reporting system to run your reports. And then you'll get an email congratulating you that your reports are being run, and then you'll get a final email when your reports are ready to download from IDEC. So we're not emailing you your reports, you're just getting a notification that your reports are ready to download from IDEC. So you have to come back and download them. So hey, what kind of reports do you get? Well, your teacher data entry fees and your site setup fees pay for the following. You get the following RR and DLL reports. You get what we call our standard site report, contains 65 tables and charts. Our disaggregated site report, which contains 104 tables and charts. A site executive summary, a site data dump, a school district report, a standard school district report, a school district executive summary, a school summary, and we refer to all of these as collectively as our annual results packet. So all of these reports and items make up your annual results packets. Now, I'm going to talk about each of these individually in a minute. I'm just listing out what you're getting. So if you have reading recovery and DLL data, these are the reports that you're going to get for the money that you've paid. If you also have literacy lessons, you will also get a literacy lesson standard site report. You'll get standard school district reports for each of your school districts that did literacy lessons. You'll also get a school report for each of your literacy lesson school. And then finally, you will get a separate literacy lessons data dump. All right? So now, let's talk a little bit about the design of these reports, because I'm going to tell you what can happen is when you first open these reports, you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I'm going to put it back and never look at it again because data is evil. Remember, data is not evil. It's our friend. We love data here on I Love Data Fridays. So I'm just going to tell you about how the reports are designed a little bit, okay? So in the reading recovery and the DLL reports, and specifically the underlined reports, so the reports that are underlined right here, these 4 reports that are underlined, they answer are designed to answer the 5 core questions, research questions of reading recovery. You know, how many students did you serve and who did you serve? What was their intervention status and how many had their lessons successfully discontinued? What were their progress on literacy measures? What was the proportion of students that scored in each national achievement group of the OS? And what gains did students make from exit to year-end testing for whose lessons were begun in the fall and were successfully discontinued? All right, so those 4 reports back here start off by answering these 5 research questions. They also answer these sort of 3 ancillary questions. Was there a change in reading recovery placement from students from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year? What percentage of reading recovery students were referred and placed into special education? And what percentage of reading recovery students were considered for retention and retained in first grade? All right? So now, let's move on to our RR, our standard site report you get. So remember, the standard site report is meant to answer those questions we talked about, those research questions. There is one section dedicated for each research question. All right, so each section has a series of tables. So for example, in section 1, tables are labeled 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So the questions, the tables that tell you how many students were served by reading recovery and who was served are in section 1, and they are labeled 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc. Tables that answer question 2 in section 2 are labeled 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, etc., etc., etc. All right, and that's how it goes through the rest of the report. Now, your report comes into two parts. The first part of your report contains all of the standard charts and tables, plus some narrative text that has already been pre-written for you that can be customized. All right, so part 1 of the report has all the tables and charts, and then text that's around the tables and charts that can be customized as you see fit to talk about your data. The second part of the report contains just the tables and charts. The tables and charts are repeated again, but without the narrative text. So for example, in the standard site report, we have on the left here is from a sample from the first part of the report where we have like these pie charts and then some narrative text beneath the pie charts right before these tables. All right. And then later in the report, the pie charts and tables are repeated again, but notice there's no narrative text. None of this text pre-written for you, okay? So that's what's in the standard site report. Now, your disaggregated report is sort of a complement to your site report. So what is aggregate versus disaggregate? So aggregate means that like you're looking data not using like subgroups. You're looking at it as a whole. Aggregate means we're breaking it down. Disaggregate means we're looking at various subgroups within your data. So for example, here's a table 2.1. It's from the standard site report. It's not disaggregated. It's just looking at the results by showing a school district. We're looking at the percentage and the number of kids and the percentage of kids who were in the different intervention status categories. So here's our discontinued columns, our recommended column, our incomplete column, our moved and none of above. In each of the columns, the number of kids, you've got the number of kids. For example, 477 kids were discontinued. That represents 71% of your total population. All right. So here we have the same table, this table 2.1.1, but it is disaggregated by race ethnicity. So it is broken down by different subgroups into smaller subgroups by race ethnicity. So aggregate, you're looking at as a whole. Disaggregate, you're looking at as subgroups. Okay. You can see that's the same table design, same columns, a discontinued column, a recommended column, an incomplete column. We just have the different race ethnicities going down along the left-hand side here, all the way across. So, for the tables 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, you will find 10 disaggregated versions of each table in your disaggregated site report. For tables 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 6.1, you will find 2 disaggregated versions for each table. You're like, whoa, Jeff, that's a lot of data. So for the tables I mentioned here, 1.1 through 3.6, we have 10 versions of these tables. So you will find, for example, for table 1.1, you will find a version that is disaggregated by district, one that is disaggregated by race ethnicity, another table that disaggregates by gender, a further table disaggregating by school meal cost, another table disaggregating by oral language proficiency, all the way going down to disaggregated by Title I funding. So there are 10 versions of each of these tables in the disaggregated report. You're like, oh, Jeff, how am I supposed to find all these crazy tables now? I mean, that just gets like a lot of tables really quick. And you're right, it does. But that's okay. There's a naming convention. So all of your tables that disaggregate by district end in a .0. All your race ethnicity tables that are disaggregated by race ethnicity end with a .1. Gender ends with a .2. So on and so forth. So, for example, if we wanted to see table 1.1 disaggregated by gender, we would go to table 1.1.2 in our disaggregated report. If we wanted to see it disaggregated by timing of intervention, we would go to table, which has a 0.5, you would go to table 1.1.5. If I wanted to see table 2.1 disaggregated by timing of intervention, I would go to table 2.1.5. Okay? So there's a method to the madness there. All right, so now we're going to talk about your RR site summary and your district executive summary. All right, and these are simple 2-page reports. They're meant to be an easy read and contain some basic information that you can give to an administrator or somebody, that is supporting your reading recovery but doesn't have the time to like go through a statistical tome and figure out what all the numbers mean. It's just meant to be an easy read. We produce one for your entire site, and then one for each of your school districts participating in reading recovery. Simple 2-page report. All right, then we have our data dump. Your data dump is a spreadsheet containing all of the data entered by you and your teachers, all right? And in there, you will find one row for each student that is served by reading recovery or DLL. Each row contains data about the child's school, the child's teacher, and the child themselves. And the data dumps contain about 200 plus columns. Now you're like, oh, I hate data. It scares me. Don't let it scare you. There are ways that we can tame the data dump. I'm not really going to do a shameless plug for webinars, but certainly you can come visit us at the I Love Data table at conferences, and we can help you with your data dump. We can give you lessons on how to work with your data dump. If you would rather not work with your data dump, that's fine. You can always ask IDEC help for pulling custom data for you. Okay, moving on to your reading recovery and DLL school district summary report. Now, it's a little like your standard site report. It has the same exact tables. It actually has a subset of those tables. It doesn't contain all of the same tables. The data in those reports are just for a school district. So you will get a school district summary for each of your school districts participating in reading recovery and DLL. And it contains just the tables and charts, no narrative text. And as I said, it contains a subset of these tables that you would find in the site report, and you'll get one for each of your school district. Okay, then we have our RR School Summary. So, the RR School Summary reports the same data that you've been getting in your site report and your in your school district reports, it just is using it's the same tables, just using a different naming scheme. So this in report will just use a table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4. All right, so it doesn't go 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 in a sequential order there. And it contains data just for a school. And it's just tables and charts. It contains no narrative text, and you get one report for each of your schools. Now, there is a little center section that is like a little summary report that you can send this report to a teacher, and the teacher can fill out this little summary section. Some of it is pre-filled out for you already, and that can then be given to like a principal. Now, please note that this report needs to remain confidential, as it contains student names at the back of the report. It can be shared with folks at the school. So like if you have a literacy team at the school, it is perfectly acceptable to share it with a literacy team at the school, with the principal, but do not make it public. I would not, take it to a board meeting and start showing it at board meetings and stuff. That would not be the appropriate place to show it. We do offer some optional reading recovery reports, and these reports are extra money. We offer some what we call our school district annual results packet, and it's $75 per school district. And what you get more is that you get this, which we call our standard school district report. It has the same tables as that school district summary I talked about, plus more tables. You'll also get the disaggregated version of your school district report. So it's exactly like the disaggregated tables you would see for your site report, except it uses data for that school district. And then you also get a school district data dump. It's just like the site data dump, but it just contains data for that school district. Do I need to order it? No. You get a lot of data already, but if you've got somebody that really wants to grind down into that school district data yourself, or someone at a school district, you can certainly order it. It is available. All right, let's move on to literacy lessons. So we're going to start with our literacy lessons standard site report. You will see that it has similar looking tables to reading recovery. It's just been modified for literacy lessons. It uses a table naming convention like the standard site report of a 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 3.1 through 3.6, so on and so forth. These reports contain just tables and charts and some narrative text. I will let you know that these reports have been a work in progress over the last few years, and still are, and will evolve probably over the years as the literacy lessons committee with your North American Trainers Group works with IDEC to change and refine the reports as literacy lessons evolves and changes. You're also going to get a literacy lessons district report. It's got the same tables as the site report. It just uses school district data, and you will get one for each of your school districts. And you'll also get a standard literacy lessons standard school report. Contains the same exact tables and charts, uses the same naming conventions. It just uses data at the school level, and you will get one for each school. And then finally, you're going to get a literacy lessons site data dump. It is a spreadsheet containing all of the literacy lessons data entered by you and your teachers. There is one row for each student served by literacy lessons. Each row contains the data about the child's school, the child's teacher, and then finally data about the child themselves. Whew! All right, there is an overview of the changes for the 2017-18 school year, and also an overview of what you get at the end of the school year from IDEC. I'm going to see if anyone's going to ask any questions here, so we're going to take a moment and see if any questions pop up on www.slido.com, and you enter in event number Z754 And we'll see if we get anything here. We'll give it 30 seconds. So as we are waiting, I will say once again, teacher leaders, if you're going to be at the Teacher Leader Institute, I would love to have your help and have you come to our to my Closing the Administrator's Gap presentation. Once again, it's not me giving you guys practical advice of how to support a reading recovery implementation. I want to take what I have, and the stuff that I have in this presentation I've gathered from teacher leaders. I've just also put data with it, and I've also had help from school district administrators to actually refine this. I want to try to turn this into like a little talking points, series of talking points that you guys can take with yourselves and that you can feel comfortable talking about the data. Since I've made the presentation, I know how to talk around the bullet points, so to speak, and I want you guys to be able, how can we change it so you guys are able to talk around the bullet points as well? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am not seeing anything fly in here over Slido.com, so we are going to cue the outro music. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for watching another wonderful episode of I Love Data Fridays here at the International Data Evaluation Center. Go enjoy that Friday, folks, and we will talk data to you later.